Everybody make sure that their microphone is on. All right, thank you.
And I'll make
Can
sure to
we-
mute when I cough.
Can we all please stand for the pledge of allegiance? A second.
You probably shouldn't have used it, sat in that chair.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
All right.
Can we use? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I think we'll switch. Okay, we got notification from Commissioner Graydon, Strand,
Fredericks.
Mills, and Fredericks that they will not be able to be here tonight. So all are, I think Strand is helping out with the high school and sports and things like that. Mills had an emergency meeting in Portland, and both Fredericks and Redonis are out of the area currently. So if we could do roll call starting to my left for those that are tenants, if you just state your name so that it'll be recorded.
Tim Eastridge.
Fred Cuthbertson.
Torrin Nielsen here.
Michael Bidwell, planner here.
Mark Murray, Public Works here.
Dan Sheets, mayor here. All right. And we're not going to review the minutes for the last meeting because we do not have a quorum, so we really cannot approve the minutes. So if there's anyone that would like to make public comments tonight, they'll be welcome to do so. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And you have any comments for us tonight? I see one person online. Dan,
That's my sister.
that's your sister?
Oh, okay.
All right. All right.
Bob had a death in the family.
Oh, no.
I'm very sorry.
Sorry to hear that. Dan, would you like to, Mayor Sheets, would you like to?
Yeah, I was just gonna provide a quick update. This is the planning commission meeting, but you know, we're still minus the city administrator, and last week our administrative assistant, she had resigned and she quit. So we're looking to fill both of those positions. The finance and personnel committee, we're gonna meet, we're gonna go over job descriptions, and we do want to get those posted as soon as possible. So we are working on that. So, you know, once we have a city administrator, you won't see my shiny face here all the time. So.
You know, we kind of like it. Dance, we might make it a mandatory. I don't know.
So aside from that, it's really, I just wanted to make sure everybody know we are trying to get those filled, and we are very thankful Michael is here and helping us out with planning. So
Glad to assist.
yes, thank you. That's pretty much it. Fred, go ahead. I'll let you take over.
All right. So there've been a lot going on behind the scenes. I know that one of the first thing that we have on our new business is review a pre-application conference request form and fee. Do you want to kind of talk to that a little bit? We build background on that. It was recommended, and 90% of the other municipalities do it, where these pre-application meetings take place. And a lot of times you have to have public works, you have to have an engineer, you have to have staff there. There's a lot of partners that need to be there. You have an effective meeting to make sure that new projects are outlined and problems are potentially addressed or averted so that there aren't costly mistakes down the road. And because we're using an engineer and maybe even sometimes an attorney or and other people, that we really need to be compensated. The city should be compensated for that time, and it shouldn't be, you know, on all of it on the taxpayer. And it really should be, hey, the developer that wants to come in should probably be, you know, pay some of that burden. So we've been looking at that, and maybe if Michael, if you could go over some of the ideology there. And
So kind of the premise, so in state law, they're like what's prescribed is that anything that is not a ministerial review, so either administrative, quasi judicial or legislative, all require a pre-application conference meeting. And it's up to municipalities or counties to figure out what the application fee is. I just got in kind of an email and one discussion that one of the considerations is changing the pre-application fee to from $250 to $400 to cover all the costs, because some of these meetings are more complex where it's not just sitting down for 30 minutes or an hour talking with us. Some of these could take 2 or 3 hours, and it involves coordinating, which with looking through things, this hasn't been done well in the recent past, and even the predecessor, the planner from Philomath that did that with coordinating with fire. And if the county needs to be in either something related to state building code or the stormwater management person for the county, when there's required stormwater detention, especially up near a watershed, and our contract engineer, just making sure that all considerations that could derail a potential development is kind of those things are caught in the pre-application meeting, so we don't end up going down the road of where everything looks fine for planning, but maybe the water capacity isn't right, or and those other post-planning considerations. And so the purpose of a pre-application meeting is to try to flush all those items out, so we're setting up those potential proposals to have a chance of meeting all these requirements and can get from the start to the finish line. And that way we're also able to address all those concerns as public input comes in. So the pre-application meeting is very important, because that's where we can relay that information, identify those issues. So that way the potential developer applicant can address those issues. So when it comes to public output, they can then show the scrutiny that they have tried to address any of those concerns. And so that's the purpose of a pre-application meeting. If it's done fully, flushed out to the benefit that it can have for that. And it's a crucial process for anything beyond ministerial for an applicant to make sure that there's a chance of success and not a surprise failure at the end, which can cause all sorts of issues, from either not happening to legal issues.
Yeah, and I think I think it's an important thing. It's not something that we really did before. And to his point, it's really a benefit to that person bringing the project to the city, because, you know, if there are things that the fire, for example, fire sees that they aren't already in the works, and they need an engineering for roadway or whatever else, or put in a hammerhead or whatever, those things can be identified, instead of all of a sudden it's a surprise partway into the project, and now they've got thousands and thousands of dollars in additional costs that they didn't see. And that can go for a lot of different things. So that $400 up front really buys them quite a bit more than just that meeting, because it could potentially, not saying that there won't be other issues that could arise.
Why'd you come up with $400? Who came up with that?
Well, Corvallis is 500,
Okay,
and I don't, what's Philomath?
Philomath is 250.
Yeah, that's what
Philomath
we,
is 250 right now.
yep, that's what we're using right now.
And we're considering up as things are getting, especially with SB 1537, when those come in, that's going to be even more complicated, because there's certain things in SB 1537 that can override development codes and required adjustments, as Patrick Weingard pointed out in the last planning commission meeting, which I wasn't even aware of, because I, in those meetings, had a different interpretation of what that was showing, that had to be requested, not that it was assumed.
And another, here's the other thing, and what he said at the beginning is, just the normal guy coming in to build a house on a lot, that's not going to be, that's not it.
Yeah.
That's the person coming in with a major development. So it's not for that person that they've owned, you know, they got a lot that clearly meets all the requirement to build 3 houses on, and they want to build one for their son and their daughter, and they're coming into town. They're not going to be subject to that.
well, I'm not against $400, but I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I wouldn't be against $500 for this fee, just because, just what you're talking about, and then you got new stuff coming. This city's always taking it in the pants, and it's time that we get plan.
How many hours would you expect is sort of the average amount of effort on your part to do the research necessary?
Well, there's kind of a pre and post. So what I try to do when an applicant's ready for pre-application meeting, making sure there's at least a site plan that's a point of discussion to make sure there's at least the minimum. And if there's an identified wetlands or it's adjacent or partially inside a floodplain, making sure that they have that delineated if they haven't done like the topographical survey or a LiDAR survey for what the elevations are. With some of those items after the pre-application meeting and a process that I've done as a planner, I coordinate with all the departments to give any comments. So it summarize the pre-application meeting. So that way we could identify those potential issues that they need to address as before submitting the application. That's going to minimize any delays once the application is submitted, because that is one bottleneck that can also then affect staff that are on the days that I'm not here on phone calls and whatnot of various delays or response time when I'm working in Philomath or Adair Village, that they won't get the response right away, and then that can cause an issue. So that's one other area it's like trying to minimize that, so then it reduces, since we have limited staff, it's like trying to make sure that we're mindful of everybody's time. And so part of that time after the application meeting is just synthesizing all those notes, making sure I'm getting all the feedback from the departments, getting that in a summary and getting that to the person or entity that scheduled the pre-application meeting.
How much is the manager going to be involved with this?
I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
I asked for an estimate for
Oh.
the number of man hours. So I didn't hear that.
Okay, on average, in my experience with the it could be about 3-4 hours.
3-4.
And that's just your time.
Yeah, just by.
That doesn't account our engineer, that doesn't account for
Yeah.
public works person.
Yeah.
Doesn't account for if fire was on the payroll, that would be
Yeah.
fire's time and
Manager,
so,
And
city
same-
manager, how much
Yeah.
is he going to be involved? Or she, whatever?
And I'll have to defer to that because I don't know the process here. It's like
I
odd.
imagine the city manager will be there too, but it's important that Public Works is there and fire needs to be there, of course, and of course the planner.
So does
So,
that
and the
double that
engineer as
time?
well.
So the
yeah,
planner is going to be more involved than the manager?
I would assume
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The manager, city manager would be involved if there's things and very specifically if a development agreement's needed for offsite improvements, or if there's some sort of going to be condition of approval that's limiting the number of units because of some sort of constraint on the property or wetlands, or whatnot, to make sure that it meets all those conditions, which would, in those cases, that'd be something that'd be going before planning commission and or city council, depending on whether it's legislative or quasi judicial. So that's just another thing that can cost time too, because it's going to go to more than one meeting after the fact, which some of that will be caught in application fees and whatnot, but.
So I guess what I was kind of getting at is this is just kind of thumbnail on the horizon. It sounds like accumulating a lot of people's time, maybe around 10 hours, would you say? Would
I
that
think that'd be
seem
8 to
healthy?
10 hours would be on the
Depending on
on
what
the
if it's
average.
a-
So
if it's a
$40 an
one
hour,
house or-
that's
yeah.
$400. So
Yeah.
that gives you a little bit of a sense too of its gradation to sort of the expense.
Right, but I also
And
know
that
what
lets them
wages
know
are
kind
right
of
now
what they're-
too.
And wages of public works, because public works on almost all of these, minus a site design review that's
Mhm.
less than a quarter acre, that already has like sewer, water taps and everything. Their time is going to be involved too, whether it's the director or whether it's Mark involved in those meetings.
So, for example, in Philomath, if you have your engineer of record showing up to these meetings, they're gonna charge a lot more than, they're gonna be a couple $100 probably for their time.
Because I usually get a big summary with them at the pre-application meeting, and then comments when it comes to the staff report findings
Are
as
we
well.
billed for that time?
Oh, yeah.
And we're billed at what rate?
We don't know yet. We don't have a current
We're
contract.
trying to finalize the engineer record, that agreement with them.
Well, some of this just, getting back to your question of an amount that just feeds into nuts and bolts of why we would estimate 400 versus 500. Clearly 250 is too little for the kind of investment that you're talking about.
Well, we wanted to get something, at
Yeah.
least something, because we haven't been collecting anything.
Yeah,
So,
well,
And some of those changes can
Zero
go
is a
one
really
of
bad.
two ways too. You could recoup some of those fees in the application fees themselves, depending on the process. So there's kind of two ways you could look at. You could either up the application fee, especially things that are being covered through planning commission, city and or city council, because then the engineer is going to
Right.
provide their findings and recommended conditions when it goes before those bodies that I would have to include in a staff.
So these
report.
fees are non-refundable?
Correct.
There's a lot of
think-
work gonna go into them.
Yeah, I mean, I like your idea of 500 also, Tim. I mean, $400 and $500 is when you're talking about the type of development that's getting ready to come in. We don't want to hurt them, but we also want them to be successful. And that's what the purpose of the meeting is, to set them up for success and get some of those roadblocks identified early. So,
you're gonna pay one way or
if we,
the other. Yeah.
if we hammer them at on the application,
Yeah,
and yet we didn't do our due diligence in the meeting,
pre-app.
then in the pre-app meeting, then we haven't helped them.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we're gonna hammer them, but we do need to look out for the taxpayer to make sure we're getting compensated for.
Well, at least they're, ready to go with this and not gonna back out.
Yeah.
Well, and also kind of discourage just sort of frivolous off the cuff kind of proposals.
absolutely.
Right.
Which we did a lot of. I think a lot of that was going on with different
But there are-
developers
there
that come
are-
in and just
Yeah,
test the waters, and they would, and waste staff time.
yeah,
Testing-
we
testing the
definitely
water.
have folks that monopolize time. They come in and monopolize large amounts of time, and this will hopefully mitigate it. So, yeah.
Now, what do we need to do as far as, is this a city council resolution, or is this?
I would assume that what we'll need to do, we need to have at least a quorum for planning commission. So we probably should bring this back around when we've got a quorum. I know we've got an example from, I think this is the city of Philomath, correct?
Yeah.
Of some other fees, planning fees that they have. It's a handout.
Yes.
Hopefully you all have that.
Yeah, and I guess I can go.
Michael, you're probably familiar with it.
Yeah, I can go and explain. So, and what I passed around, it shows two things. It'll show the amount of fees, but on the City of Philomath webpage, we list the particular application process, pre-application, and the various reviews, and how much those are on there with the download, which some of the downloads on the planning portion for the City of Monroe page is a little Spartan. And so it's like this is kind of the part that the purpose of doing it this way for City of Philomath is to try to minimize how much you're gonna get constant questions on that, and not just the plan, whether your front staff, your permit, and in Philomath's case, the permit technician. And so they have all those things, and then they can look over that, then come to the planner with any questions if they're ready for the meeting or the process. So it kind of gives a better list of information, which could cut down some of the questions and then get it more narrow to, okay, I want to do this and this, which processes. And so it can then go right to the planner step and then minimize how much overall staff time is being.
Yeah, I noticed
on
the
those
the Philomath forms that are online, they're fillable. So
Yeah.
you can just do it right there and then print it out. which is
Print it out
great.
or even email it and do electronic signature. And so I'm working on, I tried to do one form in Philomath and did it in Bluebeam. And for some reason, it's like I had tested and they were able to break it. So I've got to think about what I did wrong in the fields when I programmed it. But but we have another person in Philomath that's a tech savvy, so I can pick her brain on how to do that and then get it implemented.
We might circle back and pick your collective brains later.
I have a question. So here for the temporary use permit that asks for a fee of $400
Mhm.
and a pre-application before submitting, would that be this additional $400 or $500 fee?
Yeah, so they have to do the pre-application fee or pre-application and the fee, and then once they get all the feedback from that, then they can
another
do the
fee?
temporary use permit and pay the fee for that. And it's supposed to, in the end, looking at the original land use law and how it's supposed to prescribe fees, it's supposed to be how you fund your planning and permitting is
Yeah.
kind of the basis, because you're not supposed to use other funds to do plan when you have a hired planner, hired permit technician on staff.
Right. So what I'm thinking, I'm just gonna throw this out, it's just an idea, maybe a work session, we can see if we can find some other examples besides Philomath. if we have some time. We could go over it in a work session, see what planning commission thinks about it, thinks about the fees. And then when the next planning commission meeting is an example, could go ahead and decide on that, and then we can have city council also decide on it as well.
Yeah, maybe we can fire up an email out to the group tomorrow, because I know that Linda's back on the 9th.
Okay, good.
And so and maybe we could do it on a different night. The work
Yeah, we can
session
do
on a
whenever you
different
guys
night.
want. Yeah.
Not to exclude you, but I know that Tuesday nights is the only conflict that Commissioner Strand has. So
Right.
if we can do another night, that we can get her included also, so we get as many
Yeah.
parties involved as we can.
This is separate from SDC charges, right?
Correct. SDC charges are typically collected at the building permit phase. That's like, and which is different than what Monroe's been doing. So that's been something I've been having to shift my brain a little bit. Because usually in the building permit, then the SDC fees are added by lots, which should amount to whatever the SDC fees are for that development when it's all fully built. But without that process, without a agreement with Benton County to collect those fees at the building permit phase and us telling them what those fees are, it's like, this is kind of the only process. It's kind of in the gray. If someone ever challenged it, I don't know how that would be, because no other municipality that I'm aware of in Oregon does it this way, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can't do it this way. But it's like, I don't know how that would be if it was ever truly challenged, how that would hold up if it ended up going legal.
So if we went with all these fees that Philomath has, plus our SDC charges, do you know how much that would be?
Oh, not off the top of my.
That's before they break ground.
Yeah.
Well, they don't.
Well,
They don't have to do all of these. This is a
Yeah, it's
menu.
just- yeah,
This is a
whichever.
menu.
Yeah.
But if they did meet all these, they would.
I mean, they wouldn't need to. do
At the
all-
in most cases, they're gonna need like pre-application, then one or two of the applications typically.
Just one or two.
Yeah,
Okay.
Currently, we have what, 5 at Monroe total?
yeah, 5 online, yeah. Or 5 applications online.
So
I
we-
hate to derail us real quick, but I do have a question. You brought up the building permits. Could maybe you guys could inform me so the house that's being built right now on 8th and Main, I assume has a building permit that somehow that City Hall has, or
That would
how
be
does that
with the-
relationship work?
Well, the permit would be with the county.
With the county.
The
so,
county,
yeah.
but then does the City Hall confirm that they have it? I
I
mean,
thought the
isn't there?
county, I thought the county communicated with the city, but I don't have, there's not a lot of transparency around that.
I have not been a part of that.
And
That's
with
the
looking-
thing I'm a little concerned about, like.
Go ahead,
yeah.
Michael.
And with looking, as I've been looking through his folders, I question whether that coordination has happened,
Okay.
except for when we've preemptively collected the SDC fee before they submit a building permit. So there's kind of two tracks. If we've collected the SDC fee, then yes,
Was
we-
there an STC fee collected for the 8th and Main house?
I can, let me write that down.
I don't think he paid in full yet, but there has been some of the SDC fees paid.
Okay.
I was in there when Don took partial payment.
And the fail safe, if everything procedurally goes correct at the building permit phase. Let's say someone did a partial and has a deferment on their SDC fees. What's going to hold them from fully doing it in the end after the house is built? They have to do a final inspection, certificate of occupancy. I'll actually, Philomath has a certificate of occupancy. I'm not sure. I need to check on whether COs apply at the county for Monroe. But the certificate of occupancy typically will stop if something is not
If
done.
something hasn't been checked along the way,
Correct.
there'll be a break there.
Yeah.
One thing I'm bringing it up is they're doing all this groundwork right over here, and this is actually pursuant to the same thing that Trevin brought up in our last meeting.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure if just me eyeballing it, what the drainage plan is for that property. And so and it is adjacent to his property and all of that stormwater. I don't know if does the county permit actually take a look at that entire floodplain drainage question, or is it just looking at his house plan?
If it's in wetland designation, there should be a stop.
It's
because they would-
adjacent to it. I don't think
Adjacent to it, yeah, if any, so at the state level, if any sliver of a lot is in the wetlands, they have to get a wetlands permit, even if they're not building on the wetlands, because it's a part of that lot. But if there's other issues, I don't know what the building, since I'm like, even in
Yeah.
Philomath, I'm removed enough from permit technician in that part. I don't know where it's got, but I know from our side, there, like any house that comes in or whatnot, I'm doing a cursory review, making sure that it meets setbacks or other requirements. Public Works does a review on anything that's stormwater, water, make sure that they have the
Okay.
lateral lines connecting and the tap in the right spot to make everything work. But
Public Works is reviewing that somehow.
well, in Philomath here, it's
Not
like,
yet.
I don't know who's doing the Public Works type review.
I feel like
at the
it's kind of
county.
like operating in this, nomad, a little bit of a.
Yeah.
You know, if the county would
Limbo.
give us a heads up,
Yeah,
then we could,
Yeah, they're
become
they're
involved.
working their
Yeah.
butt off over there right now, laying down all kinds of gravel and
Yeah.
moving stuff, earth,
Yeah.
earth around and pulling trees out. And I just kept looking at it and I was like, did we even talk about, it's right beside, I mean, it's an unimproved road, so I know we probably didn't say you need to do like,
That's
some
another
kind of
thing I have
curb
a
or
question
gutter.
about.
yeah.
but is it, but what was the communication to that homeowner? I remember him coming in and looking at it in a preliminary site plan
Yeah.
whenever he subdivided the property,
Mhm.
but that was the only plan that I saw for
Yeah.
that.
So I will have to do some digging to see what, I mean, I
Is
have
this Mr.
access.
Rose?
Roads, yeah.
You know, and to that point, and Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We've been used to having all these little projects come before us. They're not gonna come before the planning commission anymore.
Uh-huh.
That's not the purpose of the planning commission. If they're building an individual house that meets our criteria,
Yeah, I
He's
check
gonna-
for
he's
bulk
gonna-
standards.
check the box, it's gonna go to the county and we're gonna get, we'll just hear about it. So
And
it's not, we don't approve, deny it. It's, if we have concerns or if people bring concerns to us, we can,
I normally am not like looking around at all kinds of building going on in the city, but it just happened to be like right beside where they were raising a fuss about the drainage.
Yeah.
And I happened to walk my dog through there.
I
so-
know on the Rose partition, if it's the same.
Uh-huh.
should. be.
There are conditions of approval that have not been met, so I have not finalized the plat, and that's what the meeting next Tuesday is supposed to be about, to hammer that out. So
Okay.
anything that you may have, just email it to me, so I can bring that up to see, and then I have access to see the statewide e-permitting. So even though I have a Philomath login, I'll be able to see the other, see that property, see whether the building permit was approved or not, because I would be it's usually you don't start doing building permits till the partition's finalized.
Mhm.
So that's kind of because there's typically a pre-engineered, pre-designed after a subdivision partition prior to the building permit. But that for the larger municipalities.
But how are we gonna be
As a
filling?
commission, we
yeah.
approved that partition.
Yeah, I was just curious, but I'm mostly concerned about, I guess, what you were saying, which is where normally Philomath would have Public Works review his plan. We have no process here, so
Yeah.
I
that's what
guess
I've
send
gotta
it
try
to Jeannie and she'll look at it.
She's,
She'll bone up on it,
Yes,
go to the
she'll jump
library
all
and do
over it.
some work.
Mark will need glasses here soon if he has to start. I'm no bifocals from looking at planes.
And Mark, you remember this too, but the idea was that the water issue that they were having with the stormwater coming through the property could potentially be mitigated when Surge does his new development.
Correct. That
And
is,
and that there's a trench that could be taken to the north side is what you said, near your property.
You're right, that was for Trevin's
Yeah.
but this is the
Oh,
guy,
this is
this is the
separate.
guy just south of Hampton.
right. Then, and the water issue is an issue for
Both of them.
Trevin's property and the
Other neighbors.
and the property that's being built on right now.
Mhm.
So I was actually out there discussing this with them yesterday. So we can run north up into the North 8th Surge property, and then it'll be mitigated when he comes in and builds. But we can also run to the south down along North
Main
8th. There's already a ditch there down to Main, and right at the corner of Main and 8th, there is a catch basin. So that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday, is creating a ditch. So basically it would create one large ditch from Main all the way up through into Surge's property.
Oh, okay.
Are they not gonna have to do curb gutter sidewalk?
This location here,
Yeah,
you mean North 8th?
Well, their house, the entry for their house is off of a gravel road, so
And eighth, but they're
Yeah.
not gonna have to improve.
I don't think so, not them.
if there was a house right on Main, maybe, because it's right
Right.
right by that one house that has
Correct.
all the
So eighth,
sidewalk.
I was looking it up on the GIS yesterday. Eighth goes and it ends, it dead ends. It has no intent on being pushed through all the way. It basically dead ends into your
Trevin's place,
property
yeah.
and Trevin's property meet
Mhm.
right there and it just dead ends. So it's technically just a driveway that serves,
It's like Ninth Street,
right.
Going
serves
off
one,
Ash.
2, 3, possibly 4 houses.
but that was, that's got a what, 80,000 pound payload for gravel and pack,
I'm not
that
sure.
driveway.
I'm not sure.
Well, we sure don't want to bury fire trucks up there if they get a fire.
Well, remember the last time Serge was with us?
Mm.
He went ahead and put off all of the improvements and
Mhm.
said he was gonna do it in phase two.
Right.
So just remember that, because it's phase two
No,
now.
it's,
And-
he has to.
And that's another thing to think about. And I'll speak from the example of one of the developments in Philomath that I've got to help, we'll say correct will be, to put it in a very professional term. Where certain things in phasing weren't happening at the right spot. And that's where cities have a tool of doing a development agreement, which then has to pass through city council, that the city manager, city administrator would have to implement, get signed and notarized. So that's recorded against the subdivision with Benton County. And so what that does is, so if a developer doesn't meet those obligations, you have a tool to prevent development going down the road.
Mhm.
And of course, a potential legal remedy if they balk at that. So that's a tool. And it's like, this is where I wish Chris could explain the development agreement a lot more. It's like, I've only written 2 in my life and that's been with
And
Philomath.
and what that replaces, what he's talking about, replaces the remonstrance.
Yes.
Because what we learned at our last meeting is that remonstrance is expired. So they're no good after
Yep.
a certain period of time.
Yeah, and development agreements are in
So
perpetuity.
you lost
unless-
$20,000 or $30,000.
Where the development agreements are follow the title.
So why do we keep doing
Because we were ignorant.
it?
to be-
I've
to
been
be up-
barking
be-
about
be
these
upfront and honest.
for a long, long, long time.
I know. We didn't realize that they aren't worth the paper that they're written on.
Mhm. So the fire department's being notified of like this house, one house up here,
Or, well, with any of the subdivisions are going like pre-application means going
or
forward.
just this house.
Just
Just this
that-
house.
just that.
I should contact fire and see. I'm gonna add that to, and I've been trying to get a hold of the fire chief for 3 pre-application meetings and I have not gotten a response, but I don't know why.
Mark can,
maybe-
help. Mark, you could probably help us. with
Yeah, I
that.
can reach out to him
Okay.
one, and I think he's still kind of in the middle of moving.
Oh, okay,
He's
gotcha.
Gotcha.
bought a new house.
There's one of them that's an absolute, I need fire in that one, but
Well,
the other 2
definitely
are
the-
optional.
Is it the one,
big,
the
big one?
north or the
Well,
main brickyard one?
The brickyard, yeah, I probably should say required on that one too.
Mhm.
The fire access for the storage facility, that for that pre-app.
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, that one too.
I need that
for
to make
Jody's.
sure that there's fire clearance because with the one way, I don't see like with the site design, how that's gonna work with fire. So I need fire
Yeah, it's
to tell me
interesting
yes
over
or
there.
no
Yeah.
on that one.
It's the same thing with this house here on Eighth and Main.
Yeah,
There's no hammerhead, there's no,
No,
I
yeah,
don't know what the distances are as far as running hose and.
wetlands at the very end of it.
yeah.
I know it.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're very well aware of it.
Yes,
So,
but it's, yeah, I can't speak for it.
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Better just stay clear of it.
And I know it's like with one ones in, this was gonna be part of my bullet points, but I'll go ahead and since if this is related to the topic, I had a conversation back when I first started or found out I was gonna be, doing planning assistance for Monroe with Daryl Long at Benton County. He expressed geotechnical concerns with, where the water is kind of flowing above ground and the type of soil on whether if a house is built on it, is it going to start sinking? And then that causing foundation life safety issues. And so it's like if we, in sensitive lands and Philomath has an overlay for sensitive lands where it's like a geotechnical report, usually it's steep slopes or you're dealing with like a watershed coming across or a wetland is defined where it's like we have this extra review that has to be done. But sometimes there's things that fall into the cracks. So it's like, if we see something that where water's been standing or whatnot, a city engineer may say we need a geotechnical report for that. And what that's going to do then, the demonstration of that developer, so they're going to have to provide a report that's stamped and signed, or like wet stamped by an engineer, signed, saying that they stand by what they say, of whether it's stability, and then the engineers say whether the numbers seem to make sense or not.
I don't want to, I just want to be clear. I don't want to undermine Mr. Rose's construction effort, but
Yeah.
I will say that maybe down the road, he would appreciate someone saying your house is going to sink before he builds it.
Yeah.
So.
We were out there yesterday and last Friday
Mhm.
looking at specifically that.
Yeah. And what's scary, like, once you've gone past the subdivision, like at the subdivision or at the annexation, depending, that's the avenue where some of that stuff can be tested out, like for endangered species or a sensitive lands where there's a protected species on there. With how it's prescribed to state, you have to identify that in the annexation phase. Once it goes beyond the annexation phase, there's no recourse. So if you find it, it's like, now it's beyond the scope of being able to declare that from, and I don't see anything as I've been researching that negates that, and we're dealing with that in Philomath right now. But I don't think those things have been checked in the past. So I think going forward and doing the pre-application meetings and bringing all of them together, then those things can be discussed, and especially people who lived around here can give that information.
And this is a quirky situation.
Yeah.
To be in the city, it's more like the country, right there. It's right on that little.
You know, and when we built our home, we have this exact same situation. And the city of Benton County made us go out and have a soils engineer come out and check everywhere we're gonna have a footing and make additional requirements of us to prepare to build our home. So,
Ours will never move.
yeah, ours will never.
After what they made us do.
We will never have a crack in our foundation after what they made us do, but to your point, I mean, that may be a requirement, and it's
Yeah.
a fairly simple process, actually.
Sorry, I derailed it.
No, you didn't. That's
Those
what
are-
these meetings are for.
Valid
Gotta
concerns.
talk about all this stuff.
So just so we're clear, we're gonna have a work session. We're gonna go over, we'll try and get some other cities, samples, and
And I will work on since I work for Adair Village, and the Monroe's planning code is more similar to Adair Village than it is to Philomath. I think their application process might be more like on par. So I think it might be a good comparison.
Might be a good matchup. Yeah.
so maybe
So
we'll
I'll
give,
see, I'll be there tomorrow so I can ask about.
so maybe not next week, but maybe the next time he's in town, if he has a chance to bring some of that for us, we can make that as
Review it.
part of our work session coming up, so we can,
Yeah, definitely.
maybe we could check with Harrisburg. And, let's see if we can get what theirs is, because we're kind of in the similar area.
Yep.
Okay, so next thing, and so we'll set a date for the meeting. Next one is the zoning clarification for 564 Commercial Street.
Oh,
So
remember
that
which
one,
property.
Yeah, that's the place that's right beside Dairy Mart.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one just up from the Dairy Mart.
Brick house?
yeah, I think so.
Yep, brick house.
Yeah, and it's currently it's commercially zoned there, if I remember.
They wanted to
correctly.
know if they burned it down, if they could build it back up again without it.
So what's interesting is the house next to it was taken out and a new house was put in its place not that long ago.
So there was a question, is that what it was?
Yeah, that was actually, I think, from the real estate agent. I think it's in the packet, actually.
Well, Steve assured us that when zoning went through for Seventh Street,
Yeah.
up to Seventh Street,
Mhm.
if anybody's house burnt, you could rebuild it.
But
I don't know how
without
that
having-
works.
I don't know how it works either, but that's what he said. So I just took it for granted that he knew what he's talking about.
You should probably get that clarified.
so I'm generally on this without looking at all the details. If, let's say you have a house that's now in something zone commercial,
Yep,
it is a legal non-conforming use if it was built when a house was allowed on there. But all that protects it under normal circumstances, and I'll have to check the nuances of how non-conforming use is in Monroe's development code, but generally speaking, if a house burns down and it's like, it's in the commercial zone, it will not be allowed to be rebuilt back.
I did a little searching around after I saw that email, and it did suggest that some places require at least a variance. So it could be a matter of just bringing it to
Yeah.
a group to just
And
review
with
it.
that type of variance, without even look at going back to development code, I can research that. It's like, it will probably be one that'll have, it'll be probably a type 3, which would then planning commission, city council.
So
would
that
be the
would at
case.
least provide them an option. So it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a categorical, no, it's
So,
not,
yeah,
it's
agreed.
not possible.
Because we're having to do that same approach except for a non-conforming structure because in one of the subdivisions, because it was, they didn't put the lot pins down at the time. They were trying to put the lot pins and put in the utilities and build the foundation of the houses. And some of them are so close to the like lot line, it's like they don't meet fire code. So having to do lot line adjustments, so everything has at least 3-foot setback. So it's kind of a similar thing of variances being used on this one property to protect it in that non-conforming, except as a non-conforming structure versus non-conforming use. So it's a little bit different. But I think I'll have to check and see, but I think the type C variance might cover this circumstance as a variance to protect it as a non-conforming use so they can
Well,
rebuild.
we just need to make sure that's in our code.
Yeah.
So we need to get
The
this.
variances
We
talking
need to
about.
forward this email to you, Michael.
From current,
And I would say too, that as far as I haven't been on this commission for super duper long, but it occurs to me that that particular property has never been incorporated in any conversations regarding future commercial visions for that
No.
street. So I don't think it would be in conflict with anything if it had to be rebuilt as a residence. So.
And another question with that property, the property immediately to the west, west of it,
West of
would,
there.
that's zoned residential.
yes.
Okay,
Wait,
so if,
well, no,
I think that's commercial too.
oh, that's commercial too.
everything on commercial is commercial.
Oh, that's
the
right.
easy
Everything
way
on
to
commercial is
remember.
now commercial.
Street.
That's right.
Oh,
Everything
that's
on
right.
commercial is now commercial.
Because I was gonna
forgot
say,
about
if there
that.
was residential adjacent or abutting to the property, rezone is a remedy for that. That will get rid of the non-conforming use. But
Okay.
if that isn't the case, you can't really do, spot zoning in case law is a no-no. So don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. But it's like
think
the
we
other
know.
alternative, expanding the overlay that kind of allows mixed use and some residential use could be a tool as well, and expanded to Block West. So that's another thing that you possibly think about if all other modes don't work, that overlay district. And I need to see the full language on the overlay district to see, I think there might be an avenue that way, but I'll need to look at it. a
I
little
actually
further.
think it's in the overlay.
Okay.
It is in the overlay because the overlay goes down Sixth.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to Orchard. And so it fits in the overlay.
So let me check the overlay language. And so it might be, that might change the answer to that question.
Okay. We'll get the email forwarded to you so you can
Okay.
take a look.
All right.
at
Thank
it.
you.
Going back to, you say, everything on commercial is commercial. I know we had talked about rezoning. Did that actually occur? Because I don't remember seeing it.
It went to the city council. I don't know.
Remember
I have
going to city
I have
council.
a member.
Commissioner, Counselor Cuthbertson, do you remember if that got passed at
I
city?
remember us discussing it.
Yeah, we discussed it quite a bit, actually.
I don't remember
I don't
if
remember.
we voted or not.
Doesn't
And
ring a
even
bell.
If we did, there was certain paperwork, I'm sure, that needed to be done surrounding it, and who knows if that got done.
I never got paperwork on it.
So,
on the list.
Well, yeah, because they would have had to have been mailed to all the neighbors and
and it would be really important. I mean, I want to just make sure that we follow up on everything, because we found a lot of things where it almost got finished but didn't get completed. So I want to make sure that all the steps were followed. So we need to figure out where we were in that process.
And I would say if there's an ordinance on that overlay and the boundaries, that might be enough. The part that, let's say it didn't get reported to DLCD because overlay districts changes in a sense the comprehensive plan map, just making sure that they're noticing. I'll check tomorrow to see if I have the permissions to be able to do that, because then I can do an upload de facto and then advise how to proceed with
Okay.
that.
Interesting.
That one, that was just, that was the master or plan development, not the other, yeah. I know, there was a lot going back and forth. Yeah, you gave me 4.4, so plan development, I think 4.5 is the overlay, and that's the, I only got to see that one, so the number is seared in my head now.
Okay, so the next thing was, and this is something that came up that is interesting that I don't know that we've ever addressed this before, but the difference between SDC fees and tap fees. I think we have always just provided the tap service and assumed that that's what the SDC fees covered. But that's
Sounds like
not
yeah, it's not
actually
case.
the way it's supposed to happen.
No, I've talked with Chuck about this, a couple different things regarding this as well. So SDC fees, tap fees, meter drop fees, like they're all separate. So SDCs is one thing. And then when it comes time for getting your tap done, they pay for the tap plus the meter plus all kinds of different things. And then they pay for the tap and get all that stuff ran. And then when they're ready, then there's a meter drop fee. We go drop the meter, they pay for the meter and then the time to install it. There's all kinds of extra different fees that we're not collecting that are included in the SDCs.
Which I don't think is legal that we can use SDC fees for the tap.
Unless, and so I would say how to handle that, and it's like, let's say the subdivision's already final, but somehow a meter wasn't put on there. You'd want to include that as one of the permitting fees for that. So it would be working with whatever that amount is and then making sure the county's collecting it, or if we have to collect it to sign off, and that could be a tool too, to have that cursory check before we sign off on it for Benton County, because I'm starting to get more of a relationship with the building inspector there, who's also like running all the permits. So there's gonna be closer coordination, because I've had to do that for Paloma. So it's starting to build that he wants to be in all pre-application meetings. So that may be something we need to meet with Benton County to see how to collect that. And then we just have to establish what those amounts are, and then to be able to do that because it's like, I haven't seen that in SDC fees per se, but I know with new subdivision and building permit, I think Paloma is putting the metering fees in with the tap fee. And it's like for that, but then if it was something that was just not part of subdivision undeveloped, you want to also make sure that can be covered in the building permit fee. So that way there isn't kind of a loophole where people can get around that.
So my question is that, for example, the Rose property that we're talking about, on the 8th, who covers the tap and the drop fee? What currently covers that?
And it's supposed to be at the end of the partition. So I know in that meeting, or the meeting that's going to be happening on Tuesday, where the water line's not the right size, it needs to be 2-inch versus 1-inch. So it means about that, because it's one of the conditions of approval to finalize the partition. So our hold is if it isn't meeting all the utility requirements, which I would assume would make sure that each property has access to said line. And then at the building permit phase, then the tap and the meter would probably be at the building permit, on the building permit side versus the partitions.
What size water lines down there?
1 inch.
Yesterday was a fun day. So to answer your question, the property owner is paying for the tap itself, the work to be done, the tap, everything that physically happens, he is paying for. But the city isn't necessarily collecting the tap fee. We're collecting SDCs, which says that the tap
Typically,
fee.
though, what moving forward,
So they will pay a tap fee to the city because they are tapping into our utility.
and we
right?
have a tap fee already established.
It's included in the SDCs.
So
is
we
what
need to separate. it.
we have to
It's like-
separate them.
Okay, that's what I was missing. Okay.
Right. And then the property owner will still be responsible for contracting, doing the actual tap, but they'll have paid their tap fee to the city.
Okay.
As far as the water line on 8th, it's supposed to be, says in the prints that it's an 8-inch fill line. It's an 1.5 inches. and it drops down to a 1 inch, connects to the meter for the house that we're looking at getting torn down at some point. And then from there, it tees and goes into PEX and comes around along 8th up to
Hex.
To Trevin.
to Trevin's place. It's a wonky setup. I've never seen anything like it. Even Chuck was baffled when he saw it. So we are,
Wow.
Steve asked to meet with him, the mayor, myself, about possibly moving a 2 inch on the other side of 8th, on the
East side.
east side of 8th, going north from Main.
Any
Where your ditch
hydrants?
is gonna, where your ditch is gonna go, or part of where the drainage could go to the storm drain too, perhaps.
It would be underneath the ditch.
So we'd replace the PEX, the 1 inch.
No, that's all gonna stay for now.
Wow.
That'll be another project later on down the line.
No hydrants.
There's a hydrant right there on the corner of Main and 8th already.
Okay.
So there is actually Harrisburg's land use fees are on page 21 in the packet. As an FYI, we don't have to discuss, just let it point it out.
Reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that too. We can put that we include that in the work session.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
I hate to open up another little Pandora's box, but.
We're
you-
on
you-
it.
you-
Get her done.
You did mention the decrepit property that's adjacent to both those other two properties that we're talking to, where Becky used to live
Mhm.
and she didn't own it and her husband didn't own it and
His mom did.
his mom did long ago and there's no descendants.
And so on and so on.
So the way that I had heard that was the proper process there was that the county now owns it, or the county should own it.
So I actually have the city attorney. I'm gonna have her sort this out. We
Well,
don't,
it's-
we don't have the
There
time.
might be there might be some timeliness about this, because if you're
Mhm.
talking about also making updates to utilities that
Mhm.
that apply to this particular property, that there would be fees to whoever
Yeah.
lives there, and nobody lives there, and so the county would then say, I'm not gonna pay for this, so I'd like to go ahead and just tear the house down and pass the fee on along to whoever buys it in an auction or whatever, so this may be one of those things that propels this
Yeah,
conversation.
we'll have to see. Yeah, but
They also got trucks and a huge digger out there. They could just open up and fill a couple of roll-off
Would
boxes.
be pretty easy right now.
It would be.
well, FYI with that property too, I didn't realize until Don showed me that there's actually like $2,700 back utility water bill fees on that property as well.
There could be a broken water line.
And it's all in Lois.
That could be where Trevin Spring is, as far as we know.
I
Okay.
was gonna say, the water is shut off. This is just an accumulation. over
I got
time.
a bendy straw from the PEX over to that one, so.
How's the sewer line there?
Oh, God.
Good, actually.
About 4 inch, 6 inch?
I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but they tapped into that. the
It's
other
not a
day.
half inch.
No, it's
Well,
not.
that's
half
good.
inch. It's sufficient.
Good.
Wow.
There's a big
It's-
manhole
it's
cover
not
with S on it. I
Is
know
there
that.
is there a fee for that hookup too? Sewer hookup?
According to the paperwork, it's part of SDC's.
So that's
Okay.
another thing we're doing. Okay.
Okay.
Sewer,
So-
water, storm
Alright,
taps.
just
are
get to the
all-
bottom.
There
of
actually
that
is
mixed
another
in.
new item for the agenda that was added last minute. It's in the packet, actually.
Fire away.
So it's in here. It's actually the high school wants to do they want to replace their electronic sign out front. And I talked to Commissioner Gradanis, trying to pick his brain if there was anything in the overlay. And there isn't. He looked, I looked. And it looks to me, just reviewing there's some pictures in here too. It
Has
looks
better
like
resolution,
it's
basically.
the same size or maybe a little bit. Doesn't seem like it's longer. It might be a little taller, but that's about it.
It'd just be a matter of seeing the sign regulations that are in the code and see what for the base zoning to see if there's anything on
I
signs.
don't think there is anything.
Wow.
No. I mean, 9'5" by 1.5".
That might be why I don't remember remembering anything about signs as I tried to cram all the pages of
Must be
development
something
coding.
about it because what is this thing, art center down here? They had to stick within a certain size.
I think that's the whole thing with being next to like a state highway or something, that they
Yeah.
can't be like
It can't be a
big and
billboard.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
Which the high school is on the state highway too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be an ODOT permit potentially. Yeah,
Okay, well, that'll be something else.
but usually they only for like, because Philomath, we've had signs changed and it's like, I do not recall where ODOT, like on, like in downtown, that ODOT's ever been involved, but we don't, other than the fire department, there isn't any sign, but it's far enough off the highway. I don't think it's in that.
So is this one.
zone. Yeah, this one's pretty far off, but the one for the Philomath Fire Department's like double the distance away of this. So that might be why, but yeah, I
Well,
might. need
Michael,
to-
do you want me to forward this to you too, so you can take a look
Yeah,
at
you can go
it
on forward and just make sure that there's nothing from from a zoning perspective that would
Yeah.
come into play.
before we say anything to them? Okay,
And then, yeah, I might have to pick Chris's brain on ODOT with signs and see if he has ever, where ODOT's had to sign off on anything, because I don't know the answer to that question, but if they're worried about things that can distract, then there's a possibility. So I don't want to say that there isn't outright.
All right, let's go to old business. Let's move the needle. UGB update.
The other guy that was
UGB
here.
update.
Yeah, the other dude.
correct.
Patrick.
Patrick.
Patrick Weingart is still working with you on your property. Have you had any further communication with him on that?
He sent something to Dan and I about that there could be grant money available to the cities for in assistance with this, that the UGB funds or the UGB, any expenses for the UGB expansion are qualified funds for these grants. So when he returns from vacation, he said he would.
Oh, he's gone right now. Then. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's back tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the next couple days, but he said he would help with the application process. And
Yeah, that was
Right.
something I think Patrick mentioned. We should probably come up with the UGB application fee. too.
What property are we talking about?
Stone property, right?
Oh, up here.
Just west of the Red Hills.
Much rest of the wetlands, but- And what I found interesting is it's, we qualify for 50 acres, but it's net acres. So that subtracts roadways, stuff like that,
Wetlands.
wetlands, stuff like
Topographical
that. So it
constraints.
can be, it can end up being 75, but it needs to be a 50, maximum of 50 net acres from what I understand.
and so,
Good to know.
in what I've read, the next step for the city, or one of the next steps here, is to announce to public so that anybody else that might have adjacent property that also might qualify has the opportunity to be part of the application.
That's-
But wasn't there also a study or something that I remember the county saying that there needed to be some kind of study?
I don't remember that. I know he said that there had to be a specific plan presented to him or to the DLCP for what was gonna be. Because of our side of our city, we didn't have to worry so much about affordable housing and stuff like that because of the size of our city. If we were at 2,500 or more, then there were some certain requirements that they started to scrutinize, but because we're fairly small, that we're gonna have a much easier time of getting the expedited process
Yeah.
taken care of. And so
And
I
if-
think it would be in everybody's best interest to get that taken care of.
Well, I think Patrick went ahead and connected you with the UGB specialist that they have over at DLCD. So I think we're on our way. I think we just need to connect back up with Patrick, and Patrick and Michael need to connect too.
Yeah.
But Patrick's been
procedural-
on a well-deserved vacation, so.
And then get that announcement out.
Yeah.
Because I think they have like 45 days for that, and then after that, there's another 45-day comment period, so there's some time
Yeah.
there. But those things need to get out.
Yeah, and Patrick and I he's wanting to schedule a meeting and hasn't gone back because he was on vacation. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think you were out, and then he was out,
Yeah.
and had just 30
Yeah.
days there.
Yeah.
His intention is
Yeah.
Well, good.
And procedurally, like the application process would be, if it's going to default to whatever the equivalent in city zoning, it would just be annexation. If it's going to change the zoning, then it's annexation rezone with respect procedurally, and those can be consolidated into
Okay.
one process and for the annexation and then the rezone with proper notice. But that'll all, then I'll have to submit all the requisite information to DLCD through their portal and then type it all in, everything that's being submitted, then I have to type it into their field. So
course.
it's not straightforward, but it is straightforward, but not straightforward. Redundant, I guess would be the right word.
That's good. So we'll get some follow-up on that. And then Michael, looks like
Back to me.
back to you and review of some of the projects.
Okay. Got some updates.
All right.
I've been scrambling to play catch up after being sick for 2 weeks and having family emergency. But I have pre-application meeting scheduled with Jody Kahn for the addition of Chronics containers to the storage facility to make sure that fire and Benton County building permits is involved in that, because there's some specific specialty codes that are going to come into play that need to be there. And it's like, I gotta make sure all that information is bridged between the two to see whether it's feasible. From a zoning perspective, it looks like the only, with the overlay, from my understanding, I'll have to read it more. So once I have that overlay, I can see, but it looks like the only thing that's going to be enforceable, since it's not substantial new development, would be making sure those Chronics containers match what's already there. Seems to be about the scope, assuming there isn't any issues with spacing with building code or fire access. I also did a pre-application meeting with Surge, and the invite list is insane for that one and for Brickyard. So it's like trying, because I'm gonna have to get why am I just blanked a Chuck from the stormwater engineer from Harrisburg to be in on some of that, because there's some stormwater implications, especially with the Surge property. That's more important because seeing what's going to be needed and possible off-site improvements to deal with Trevin's property to make sure that we've mitigated all that, because there's a chance on the off-site agreements, there might need to be a development agreement tied to the subdivision approval, assuming it's approved and meets all the criteria. But there's some wetlands things. So in the application folder, there is a signed application from the former city administrator for the joint wetlands permit, but I don't know if it ever got submitted. So in that pre-app meeting, I'm gonna have to ask them, it's like if they have a status update, because that's gonna impact like a majority of those lots. They either need to mitigate the wetlands and pay whatever fees to the state, unless federal determines they have jurisdiction over those wetlands, then it's gonna be what they'll be up at the whims of the timeline for the federal government. And if it goes federal, then I can't issue any building permit. The county will not be able to issue on anything that's
I
wetlands.
had heard, didn't they say they were buying some kind of offsets?
Yeah, and I don't know. All I have is the copy of the signed application from the
credits.
former city
Credit, yeah.
administrator. I don't have any approval. Yeah,
That's why he didn't finish that, is he only got mitigation for those
The ones
8 or
that he
10 that he did.
Yeah.
And then that's why he's moving forward now, is he finally got all the rest of it paid for and taken care of.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
who's
good to know.
Trevin?
Trevin?
Yeah.
He's a new
Trevin,
resident.
he just a new guy who just moved in, just to the east of Eliza's field down there.
On the dead end of 8.
Dead end of 8. He was here. Oh, you weren't here though. You were on the line.
What was her name?
Dorleen.
Ballard, yeah.
Oh,
Ballard's place.
okay.
Because they've been having water going across and some of like
Yeah,
potential,
yeah.
this would be like potential
That's a mess down there.
mitigating, thinking long-term solution. I know, and they're like, they had contacted the city of Paloma, so I think they're wanting to see a short-term solution. I don't know if there is a short-term solution to the water flowing over, because it goes beyond to the south too. So I don't know what that solution looks like, because it's post-planning, but it's like, that is something that they had contacted Chris and Philomath about while I was out. So just put that on everyone's radar that they're, but at least now we can say that there is a long-term plan for making sure that water, the stormwaters or above ground water stream, whatever it is mitigated through the stormwater system that's going to be put into place. And that's going to be part of what's going to have to be discussed in that pre-app meeting. So trying to bring all the best minds. Brickyard, the one thing I have concerns about with previous conversations is capacity. Like for water, sewer, stormwater. For the size and scope of development, there is a couple of planning considerations I'll have to put in the meeting, because it's like, and where I want to look at that overlay, because I feel like the intent of the overlay is a little different than what their proposed modified layout is. So I need to look at that a little more so I can ask the right questions in that pre-app meeting, but keep it very concise, because there's a lot of beyond planning things with stormwater and being near a watershed, and one lot is in the floodplain that's gonna have to be taken into consideration. That there's a whole slew, I'm gonna spiel on FEMA stuff that the state's enforcing that's gonna impact that one lot if they're gonna build on that one lot in the floodplain.
What size lots are they building at the Brickyard?
They vary in size, but there's gonna be 100, I think it's 170 lots on 35 acres, if I remember, 35.8 acres, if I remember correctly. The industrial portion of it seems minimal. The live work seems a little more strong, down to like, I want to say 8 or 12 lots is going to be. So we've got to see what the language is in our code so I can advise them. Do they need to make any modifications and see? And then are we going to need any offsite improvements? How are we going to handle if they're adamant over, especially if they invoke SB 1537 for housing production? How do we handle that when there's not potentially not enough infrastructure? So it's like with stormwater, water and sewer capacity. So those are things that have to be taken into consideration, because we also don't want to have a development then they're going to, and the city then doesn't have enough water. So that's a serious question that's going to have to be
You
considered.
said 35 acres.
35 acres.
Now,
And Benton County is going to be involved with that. Gordon, the stormwater engineer there, because there's going to be, since it's up against the Little Tom or Long Tom, thank you, Long Tom River, there is some watershed considerations and the size of the property being developed, then there's going to be some county requirements that are going to come into play as well. So there's going to be a little extra, I think, scrutiny on that, because the county has some, it triggers some other provisions that this county enforces via the state. So that's.
so Stan Salat said he was gonna sue anybody who built on there. Have you remember that?
I remember that. That was a while ago.
Well, he hasn't forgot about it.
But it's like, we gotta see, because I think right now the stormwater, sewer water capacity is the 800-pound elephant in the room. I'm like, how do we mitigate? Because this 170 lots, some of them townhouses, and that industrial, even though seemingly small, which I think is storage, is going to have impact. And it's like, and is there enough capacity? I mean, and usually that's determined in the annexation phase, but since that was annexed in the city, in the 19 teens or before that, it's like, there wasn't any procedure for that. So that's where it's
Have you
like,
had discussion with them about adding commercial, more commercial space and more park space?
not
And any of that
yet,
stuff?
not yet. And I'm going to gather my notes, because I think having that all flushed out in the pre-application meeting, it's the more constructive way to do it. So then I can say here in writing, this is what the intent of the overlay is. And right now needs a little more work to get it in compliance with that. And I just have to make sure it's very prescriptive, because overlay is supposed to be very not predictive. That's not the right word, but it's like prescriptive. Thank you. Very prescriptive. And so I got to make sure that everything is clear and objective, and nothing is ambiguous in my explanation of what they're needing to do. So I just got to make sure I do my research on Tuesday before this meeting, which means 8 to 9:30 is going to be all my time, because I will have 4 meetings on next Tuesday. So it's going to be a full plate. And yeah, so Surge and Brickyard are going to be meetings, and then meeting with.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Surge has two projects.
This is Surge
going.
2.
So this is the one on Oak.
Well, actually,
Or
there's,
is this the one-
I was
this is
understanding
the-
there were 3. So there's the Brickyard, there's the,
No, Surge. I'm talking
I
about.
know, yeah, I know. So I'm just trying to understand too, which one Surge was on.
Surge is the 10th Street. They call it the 10th
Yeah.
Street subdivision. So
Oh.
that one, Surge 2 is what I was told.
Okay,
You
And
call
not
that
Surge One.
surge two.
What is Surge One then?
Surge One's that other one
Oh,
that's in there,
okay.
and there has, and
And that's the Loving Field.
Right.
I believe
right,
so,
The one
yeah.
off Oak. and-
Okay.
that one
Right.
still, I need to look at more because there's some questions. I think I need to talk to, from what I remember, I need to bring Chuck into that conversation as well.
And that is adjacent to the Brickyard. So that's
Okay.
why
Oh.
that's so important.
Oh, thank you for, so I gotta,
In fact,
Because that,
you would probably be well advised to just on your way north home,
Mhm.
just pull off at the old Brickyard sign and just take in the
He goes
palatial
that-
he goes-
grandeur,
that
how
way, though.
large that field is.
that's when he goes.
He
goes
Really?
yeah, I live in Eugene.
Just go
Oh,
that way and
wow.
turn around and then go
And
back.
it's not that
Take a
far.
picture.
There's a few blocks. It's
Yeah.
much shorter than my commute to Adair
Yeah.
Village or
But
Falmouth.
this is so important and critical for the city that both of those pieces of property account for and provide opportunity for commercial development. There has to be places that people work and people buy groceries and people buy gasoline in this town.
Yeah.
And those are the ideal, most perfect places for those things.
Yeah.
And if we miss this opportunity to intersect with development money,
Yeah.
we will be sad.
Because the other side of the highway, we don't own it.
Yeah, county owns it.
County owns it. So that is really our,
That's the
that is,
primary.
that is our primary chance.
Opportunity.
To.
Welcome to Monroe.
The part that's scary, so in SB 1537, it kind of overrides if residential is allowed in a zoning district.
Uh-huh.
They can literally invoke SB 1537 and they want to make 100% of it residential. If they invoke it, there are things that are now after that, like Patrick's explanation, it's not, it's like, I thought it was, they had to like mention it to apply for it, but no, it is like an outright, they have an title saying, I'm SB 1537, I'm doing this.
Well, we're fine with mixed use too, by the way, so they can still put people
Yeah.
above those
Yeah.
commercial areas. It just needs to be, there needs to be an opportunity for that rather than
Yeah.
nothing but manufactured houses.
And that's the part that scares me about SB 1537 with, it has good intention. I don't think it was written for smaller communities. And it can derail anywhere residential is allowed at all. They literally can make that 100% residential and there's not one thing the municipality can do about it.
So our mixed use
So it's gonna
backfire on us.
So it then, if it comes to that, that's where development agreement negotiations, SDC offsets if they're doing X, Y, or Z may have to come into play on that. Just pulling from how Chris has had to handle some of these issues. We haven't handled an SB 1537 yet in Philomath, but it's going to be coming. And with all the meetings I've had, trying to get more clarity on that, if it's where there's any residential allowed, whether it's mixed use or outright, that's where it can be invoked. And so that's just to put like the canary in the coal mine scenario
Mhm.
that could be a problem. But yes, it's like and I don't think when they made that law, they didn't think about that this could affect small downtowns, and maybe some of the ones who voted for it at the state level don't care. I don't know. But that is one possible issue that municipalities could face with how I'm reading the 22 pages and then the 36 pages of question and answer, which just causes more questions. And if you want to drive yourself insane, I recommend doing that for insanity.
I got a question. How many more homes can we put on that sewer system?
We don't know right now.
You don't know.
We don't know.
They
We
need
don't
to
have a
be,
number.
they need to be dredged, right?
The ponds?
Yeah,
Not right now.
not right now.
No. We're gonna test them again this summer, but when we did it last year or the summer before, they're fine.
Okay. And they'll handle 50, 60, 80 homes.
Steve had a number that was around 50, 55, somewhere in there. There was never any math.
I
or
kept
anything
hearing
done.
water. That was the water problem.
Well,
So
well, that's adding shifts is what I
according
understand.
to Chuck, water, we'll be fine on water.
Right.
It's just gonna mean extra shift, more employees. We can make the water needed.
Yep.
It's just gonna take longer. The problem is sewer infrastructure, not just the ponds, But the actual infrastructure itself, our pipes and stuff, they're old and degraded.
Especially
and-
at this end of town.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why the Brickyard
Right.
property going through the Loving property is important, because if you upgrade it, require enough of an upgrade through the Loving property, that solves a lot of the problem through the.
But your
Brickyard
main
property.
sewer line goes underneath the football field
Yeah.
And it goes under the river, right?
and it goes under the.
So, yeah, we got a main that runs north and south from basically just north of the Brickyard, the two houses there as you're leaving town, and then cuts all the way south underneath the football field and then meets up with our lift station over here. And then, yes, from the lift station, it cuts underneath the river.
So this was tied into the big grant upgrade they were trying to do with the bridge that would also carry the utilities and the
right,
sewer and the
correct.
water and all of that to
Correct.
upgrade that, so.
That's still in the works.
No.
Ooh,
I'm afraid not.
changes every day, doesn't it? Holy cow.
And one thing that could be done if they're adamant about this and where there's that issue with sewer, it's like development agreements to do the offsite improvements necessary and upgrades can be something in there, and kind of the bargaining chip and Chris has had to do this in Philomath is give them SCC credits for the offsite improvements. So that's one potential negotiation tool where we're not really losing the money on the SCC fees because they're providing said infrastructure. So that's a tool, but that usually is covered in some sort of development agreement. So that's just another a possibility that could be done to if all the chips fall into place to get it to the
It
finish line.
sounds like Chris might be a good,
Asset on this.
very helpful on our side in terms of negotiation.
Yes.
They'll help us.
Yeah, should I have Chris come for these pre-app meetings on Tuesday for Brickyard and?
If he's available.
Okay.
If he's not, of course not.
Yeah, because 170 homes times our current STC fees is 3.5 million.
Yeah.
I would,
That could do a little bit of upgrading.
yeah. I was gonna say, especially on the big ones.
Yeah.
Should we be looking into a digester grant?
I'm not sure at this point right now, to be honest. It's more discussion with Chuck that we'll have to have. Right now, our big focus is getting the
Sure.
water plant back up to
Sure.
where it needs to be.
Might put the bug in there though,
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
just because if there's water or money to be had, might as well get on top of it.
Yeah.
You know, even gotta condemn a little more of that park over there for a big digester.
So did you have any other updates at all?
And then meeting with Rose on the water line issue. So that's the second. And then the third thing, there still needs to be a little more follow-up on this one because I saw an email from April 29th for the Oak subdivision that they submitted their final plat to get recorded. And I just need to see what that final plat looks like because it's like in Don's email, it said that it was going to be in my inbox. I didn't see anything. So maybe I'm not looking in the right spot, but check that and compare it to conditions of approval, make sure that everything is satisfied on that part. I think there's not going to be any issue on that one. So it's just a matter of signing off so that the partition plat gets.
So there's a home over there that's right out their back door is city property.
Okay.
Is that gonna be taken care of or with Brian Oaks? Because then there was also talk about a hammerhead thing for the fire department to turn around at.
And I need to see if that was
There's water
included
or
in the.
sewers,
Talking about the house over on County, right?
Mhm.
like sewer lines, is there water too? Or just storm
I
drain?
get the friends. I know there's sewer back there.
Uh,
Don't think there's water. I think it's just sewer back there.
Because one, that like the typical condition of approval in a partition, and hopefully this one says the exact same language as the Rose one did, is that for utility infrastructure, utilities have to be able to satisfy and have access for all the properties is the typical condition language for partition plats. So that
Like alleys?
like even if an alley is there, it's like they can use, well, if it's paved, they'll have to make sure they could put it in the alley potentially, but then I think if that falls in city property, I'll have to look and see how that would apply. It's like, if it's adjacent to, it's like for subdivisions, we have required infrastructure and alleys at times.
Surgeons deals have alleys. So,
Yeah, and they're in Surge's preliminary plan, they have wanting to do their stormwater detention in the alley. So I need to see, but is that going to match up with those locations with the offsite issues is another question that needs to be where it's like, I need to have a stormwater engineer look at that and be able to tell me, it's like, right, like when I from a layman's perspective, I look at my, I don't know where that's place is going to resolve the offsite issue per se. So there might need to be some connecting the dots to lean that into the infrastructure and kind of make it seamless. So that's where I'm hoping.
is the state still barking about treating the stormwater before it goes into the river?
Benton County, yeah, when it's property is large enough, it's like, and
What's
so,
large enough?
for a town the size of Philomath, that's a 1/4 acre. It's a little bit larger for small. That's where I might need to contact Gordon to see, but, and I don't know if in the past, like on the search, I'm going to bring Gordon in on the equation because it's over. It's like, it's large enough with all those lots that it's probably what, 3 or 4 acres at least. So I think it might require some sedimentation off, like underground detention, so it filters through before it gets to the river or it gets into the stormwater system. Okay. And I think that's it.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm hoping you're feeling better. He said, he told me earlier today he was 50% better, so
Okay, that's very.
50% better than zero. So we're,
Better than Sub-Zero. I'm putting on professional face. It's like, I'm trying not to cough.
We glossed over a subject you brought up, which was the property that where their backyard is actually city property.
Right.
So I remember Steve talking about how that was a pretty sensitive issue that he thought it was. I remember him saying that he thought it could be mismanagement on the part of the people who sold them that property, that in that they should have had that they they didn't do a proper review of where the property boundary lines were before they sold it. Basically, they sold them a property that had a great big backyard, but the fence incorporated not their property. It incorporates the city property. And so the question is now, how does that get reconciled? So do you force them to buy city property? Do you tell them to get rid of their backyard, even though they bought this house with a backyard?
I don't think the city can actually sell it because it's a utility right away, correct? I think so.
What if you could sell half of it, half a lot? I don't know.
I remember, so that I don't, I mean, honestly, this, I'm sure the city could make a big deal and take back that property in some way, but it seems like one of those things that should be resolved in some way rather than just left. And the reason that you bring it up is it's exactly adjacent to all of this new development that's going to be there. So,
Right.
And typically, when you're going through, like, either it's a lot line adjustment or a partition or subdivision, any public utility infrastructure should be identified. Any existing conditions, if there's a question about whether a fence is on the property line, it's like, I usually ask for those things on there just to make sure there isn't any other thing that need to be remedied, because if something is not meeting inside their lot boundaries based on the legal description and what they're showing on the proposed plat, those have to be mitigated before it can be finalized and recorded, because you don't want to have a situation where now there's a fence outside of that falls outside of planning at that point and then becomes a landowner versus landowner disputes. So so usually my process, I try to cover all that and then rely on Public Works or city engineer or whatever on any of those utility easements or other easements that may come into play. And it's up to the applicant to provide any sort of, like, if there's any agreements with neighbors on, let's say, shared access or whatnot, that may not be shown on the plat but recorded in a deed or something like that, that they provide that information. And it's like, and sometimes that's hard to to prove because you can, like, as a planner, you can only review what you know of and then compare to that. But if you don't know it, then that's where some things can get missed, and it happens more often than you think in any of the places I've been a planner.
Well, there's gonna be a bunch more stormwater in that ditch from 8th Street all the way to, I don't even know where it goes. It's just an open something.
Yeah, it comes from 8th and then,
Goes down underneath the dollar
Ye-
store.
yeah,
Well, there is a culvert. pipe.
yeah, there's a ditch that runs along the 6th Street easement right
Mhm.
there, and it comes back over towards Kelly.
That whole area needs to be cleaned up.
Yep.
Just another project, but if you're gonna dump a bunch more water in there,
I've been trying to figure out things. There's the county has a list of places that you can do community service, like court appointed and stuff like that.
well,
I've seen the list. We're not on it. I want to get us on that list so we can start getting things like community
That'd be
service. So I
nice.
can have people go out there,
Extra
and
hands.
rip some things out.
Is it-
I've looked into getting the Benton County road crew down here. That's expensive. We actually have to pay to have that service, and
is that culvert pipe just open?
it's an open ditch over there. Yeah.
So it's not like up here where they got some bars that doesn't allow kids in there or anything.
Can we have a community service project to help clean that up?
Like volunteers and stuff? Absolutely. I would love to have volunteers.
Maybe that would be something we could look into.
Definitely.
Your high school seniors have to have volunteer work.
And that actually Chuck mentioned yesterday while I was here, the high school, the Earth Day, they do volunteer stuff, and they got all the high schoolers out at the parks, cleaning up parks. and
Photo
stuff.
op and,
All
Yeah.
the high schools down in where we are, the seniors are required to have volunteer work to graduate.
Yeah, I don't think we do that here.
that might be worth looking into. We used to do community projects where we do whole streets where we go in there, like in Peoria, we went down there in Arizona and we did a whole street. I mean, a whole street. We painted houses, cleaned up debris, redid landscaping, did entire streets on one Saturday.
It happened here, 5th Street.
We got a bunch of volunteers and everybody just shut up and did it.
We could greatly benefit from something like that.
I think there might be a lot of interest in the community to do something like that.
Got your blessing?
Yep.
Right on.
Everybody goes out there, volunteer for them, we're good.
Yeah, just. So anything else that anybody wants to bring attention here? I think we've got enough that for our next, the work session will probably help set a lot of the next agenda. But I'm gonna anticipate probably in the next 2 weeks having a work session after we know we got people back and. Yep. And are you leaving town at all, Torrin or Tim?
Well, I leave town every day to go to the hyperbaric chamber.
But you come back,
I do come back.
getting a nice nap in every day.
The, something most people know this, I think, but the fire department got that $2.5 million grant for seismic upgrade for the fire station up here.
Yep.
And so we're gonna look into that really intently. It cost $8,000 to put the application in, which come out of the, the coffer, but what you gain from it should be extensive.
Yeah, I talked to Joan about that. The reason it cost 8,000 is they had a service do the application for them.
Okay.
So
Right.
we can qualify for the grant if we have the building re-inspected and they have a different
Okay.
opinion than the last inspector.
Yeah.
But
For City Hall, yeah.
Well, we felt it was worth it, so we got her done.
That's a huge benefit though for the fire department.
oh,
That's huge.
absolutely.
All right. Anybody have anything else?
And hopefully by the next time I give an update, all the rest of the folders are like I feel like I'm more than halfway done with what was,
Good.
had
That's good.
nothing. But I need to look at search one because I had a bunch of sticky notes and just had to triage what was the burning fires.
Look at
and
all of
things.
Surge's stuff.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here and we will be adjourned till the next meeting.